coming to tonight's session, we have with us Professor Pinkesh Shah. Most recently, he was Global VP, Product Management McAfee. We have Professor E.Y. Chen. He's Senior UX Director Virtuosa. Baidurya Sinha, he's Director of UX Design ADP. And Sai Satish Vedam. Most recently, he was Director Product Management Oracle. Pinkesh Shah, EY, and Sai are our esteemed faculty, and Baidurya is one of our well-wishers. And thank you all of us for joining us here. Now let's get on to the session.
Good evening, all of you. My name is Sai Satish, and you can call me Sai. Thanks for that introduction, Menaka. One of the things that I am particularly excited, before that, welcome all of you, wherever you are joining from. Hope you're all safe and staying safe. Things are getting worse in many places. So I'm sure you're taking good care of yourself and your loved ones. So again, thanks for joining in the evening time in India. And if you're joining from other places, I see folks possibly from Europe and East Asia as well. Welcome. I wanted to share a particular thing. When I heard about this program, when the team was putting together a user experience program specifically focused on UI, UX design, business design, product design, one thing that I was particularly excited about is, so in my role as a director of product management, there are several instances where I actually had to create a team, set up a team, and hire designers, right? So two things happened there to me. One was I was particularly looking for a designer who is well-versed in many areas of design, right? Starting from interaction design, information architecture, user research, prototyping, and visual design, and all of that. Now, I didn't know at the time that I was asking for too much, right? But then quickly realized that when I advertised that positions, from Oracle to outside, within 2 hours, there are about 80 to 90 people who expressed interest, which is amazing, especially in India, right? Which indicated that there is a very broad ecosystem of designers, aspiring designers, and in different stages and different skills. But one thing that jumped out to me is, especially if you're working in product companies and working with product teams, having just expertise or being good in one of these didn't seem like enough, right? So I actually needed to hire 4 or 5 people with all these skills together, right? Now, on top of that, there was also another challenge that I faced, and hence when I was having this discussion with Professor Eve and also Shah, was that, look, as product leaders, as design leaders, often you need to make a business case to the executive management team to basically say, what is the ROI on investing in design, right? And I think that's a very important skill and mindset and approach and methodologies that every design person should know now, because while everybody agrees that design is a great differentiator, but very few, especially the top leadership teams, really, well, they all acknowledge it for sure, but they wait for a business case to be made. So I think that's, bringing that as part of this program is something that I'm particularly excited and looking forward to. And looks like we have Professor Shah back here, so hopefully we can hear him now.
Let's try that. Is that better now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I was trying to upgrade myself during COVID to a new Bluetooth headset, and looks like I'm not fully up to speed. So apologies for that. A very warm welcome to everyone, and good morning for folks who are in US, and a very good evening to folks who are in India. I thought I'll take, if somebody can allow me to share the screen, I thought I'll walk you guys through, as a vice president of product, how we've had to hire, how we've had to kind of create and mentor a set of product managers, a set of product designers, and more importantly, from a career perspective, having now mentored hundreds and thousands of folks in the last 5 years, especially as a faculty here, but at many other places around the world, I thought I'll share 3 tips from a career perspective. And I think we have a lot of design experts here who will then talk about the specifics of the design, the curriculum, and all of that. But that's what I thought I'll share with you. So let me do this and go to my screen and let me know if you guys see my screen there. Now, one of the things that a lot of people ask me is this whole hot careers, what kind of careers are hot? And I always say, look, in the next 25 years, we're going to have an acute shortage of three kinds of professionals. Data, when I say data, that includes data science, but also not just the data scientists, the data science managers, the data analysts. Design, very, very big vacuum, around the world, but especially India. And certain parts of Europe, and product. Right? When I say product management, product marketing, product operations, and so on and so forth. That's a little bit about myself, but I think we'll skip that. Here's my first tip. And since today is a design conversation, I want to kind of focus more on three career tips. First, every hiring manager, whether that says explicitly in the job description or not, is really looking at all three lenses. And this is important for every one of you who's trying to move up, perhaps in a different role, perhaps in a different company, perhaps in a different industry. And if you are ever going to be hired, going for an interview or trying to have a conversation with someone around careers, you are going to be evaluated on all three. The leadership part, which is the whole art of storytelling, the concept of how do you visualize certain things, how do you communicate, how do you manage conflicts and all of that. Second is the functional skills. Let's say you're a designer, they're going to be looking at everything from IA to visual design and everything in between, right? And then obviously the domain skills. Do you understand enough about the domain of the hiring manager and of the company, right? So if I'm in McAfee, and if I'm hiring a designer, I'd rather hire a designer from Symantec or hire somebody from, another cybersecurity company, just because the domain is straightforward and I kind of get the extra, context of the user that the participant may bring. But keep this in mind, it's not just the functional skills. It is all three. And so just kind of very important, excuse me, often overlooked thing that all of you need to kind of look for. Career tip number 2. Gone are the days where somebody is appreciated with that utility value, being a utility player inside the company. No matter how good you are, at some point, that utility player and the need for that utility player is going to be obsolete, is going to be less. And so what you really need to become is what I call a cross-functional specialist. And I'm using the word very carefully. Cross-functional specialist. So you still need to be a great designer. If design is your specialty, you need to still be a great product manager. If product management is your specialty, but you better be cross-functional. I think to what Sai was saying earlier, this is exactly how most companies are hiring now. And so we call that as a full stack professional, right? If you look at product careers, this is the competency map of all the different 25 competencies you would need to become a product manager, to become a full stack product manager. However, if you're looking at design, everything from solving problems to creating solutions. And so now there are different types of designers with different titles and different roles. And it doesn't matter where you start. You could be a visual designer moving towards the other side, which is kind of user research and anthropology and the psychology of the user. Or you could be the other way around, starting with a UX designer and moving towards the other side. But what's more important is not just to move on the design vector, which is what you see on the screen here. You need to kind of go into what we call a cross-functional designer, which is including business skills, including digital skills, including product skills. Of course, you need to have UX skills and you need to have UI skills, but the industry now prefers cross-functional skills. So that's kind of very important career tip number 2. And so if you define full stack design, which is the context of today here, this is how you would put together. If there was a formula, this is what it would look like. Full stack designer equals UX design, UI design, product design, business design. And of course, that includes digital skills. as part of product. And of course, that includes how does this make sense for the customer? Will they pay for it? How much will they pay for it? The monetization models, and all of that is part of the business design, right? So that's kind of career tip number 2. My last and final career tip is this. And first, before I tell you the tip, I'd like for you to kind of read this quote from Paul Heckel. Paul Heckel is, by the way, a great UX designer that you may have heard about or you may be following. But do a quick Google search, you'll find lots of good things about him. Now, he made a very prolific statement. He said, look, every person knows what he likes. And hence, sometimes they think every person is also an expert on user interfaces. And so the tip is this: knowing is not equal to skill. Let me repeat. Knowing something is not equal to having the skill for it. Now, let me show you a more complicated diagram to explain that. But before I do that, let me give you a simple anecdotal way to understand, which my wife taught me this a few years ago, and I'm a food critic. I'm a foodie. And so I guess by nature, you fall into this critic role, self-appointed, by the way. And now, wife brings a great dal. And I said, you know what, this dal, and for those who are in US, dal is one of those Indian staple food, like a soup, right? So it's like a lentil soup. The dal in the lentil soup is great, but it has this something missing. So she goes with a nice smile that she gives always. She goes back to the kitchen, fixes something, brings another bowl. Oh, that got fixed, is my response. But, and you know what happens next. Now at this point, the wife of a product manager, by the way, so keep that in context. She smiles at me very, very lovingly and says, you know what, why don't you take the lentil soup to the kitchen and fix it? And within milliseconds, I was made to realize that while I may have an opinion about this lentil soup, I really don't know how to fix it, which means I know certain things, but I do not have the skills to do something. And this is a very important cognitive bias that I think a lot of professionals have. I wish somebody coached me long back in my career. I would have removed those biases sooner, but certainly something to leave behind for all of you, that learning, especially when it's executive learning, working professionals learning, adult learning, comes in 4 flavors. First, awareness. You seem to have some understanding of the subject, whether it's product management or data science or design or blockchain or IoT. You seem to have some level of awareness and understanding that you can kind of tune in, right? And by the way, you can develop those with some tools that I show you here. E-learning, especially YouTube's, Coursera, edX, Udemy. There are lots of good places to build that awareness. As you go inside the core, if you look at the sphere, and if you kind of go inside deeper and deeper to the core, the next level is literacy. Now, at this point, you're able to frame sentences. You're actually able to talk, buzzwords. So you understand the difference between UX and UI, and you can actually explain with a reasonable degree of understanding, what is the difference between empathy map and design thinking, for example, because you have buzzwords, you have conversations, you have literacy. The third, which is the most crucial part that you need to get to, because until then, you do not have skills. You may take a 2-day workshop somewhere, get a certificate, it may look good on your resume, but you may not have skills, because skills means you've applied everything you know to now solve a given problem. And by the way, you've done this repeatedly to solve a different sets of problem, to solve varieties of problem, and now you have hence a portfolio to show for the kind of work you've done. Now that is the first entry point for skills. And now if you want to even further go deeper, the fourth and the most innermost core of adult learning is expertise. And here, you not only know how to do things, you can teach others, you can mentor others, you can be a thought leader and spread that awareness to others in the community. You're a mentor to many, you're a coach to others. You help set up a design process in your company. And eventually you kind of become a design manager or a design leader because you're setting processes. So this is important to know. Going back to the simple thing, knowing is not the same as having the skill. So with that, I'll kind of pause. I know we have terrific lineup of speakers here today, so I don't want to take too much time, but happy to take a question or two if it pops up now in your head. But if not, happy to connect on LinkedIn. That's my email address. Feel free to connect. And I hope all of you will keep these tips in mind as you design your own career using design as a skill, right? And not just a careful choice of words or a tricky choice of words, but let me repeat. I hope all of you will consider designing your plan to move into a design career or to accelerate into design careers by keeping this in mind, right? So with that, back to you, Menka.
Great. Thank you. So I think let's move on to Sai. Could you give us a little, anything that you would like to share about the UX program that we have?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to share a quick summary overview and leave a lot of room for questions on the program itself. And as I was saying before, I think when Professor Shah and Eve, who is here, who's also our expert faculty here, were thinking and discussing about a plan or a course which essentially can address what Professor Shah just called as a full stack designer, right? So let's see what that full stack designer is and how this program is structured, what specific courses.
Excuse me.
So yeah, I hope he's okay with that. I just wanted to give a quick overview of the structure and then explain some more details about how this program will run and see if there are any questions. We have Eve and Tatan, with a strong design background, design experts for many years, happy to take your questions on that. So the program is essentially 5 months, designed for 5 months, but if you show enough commitment, enough effort, and complete the programs or the courses that are there within the program, you could optimally complete this, even either 3 months, or the program is available to you, accessible to you up to 12 months, right? So that's why the word flex. The flex indicates that this is a program that is decoupled from location and decoupled from location, so anybody can join at any point in time and still take advantage of the guided learning sessions that we have, which I'll talk about in a minute. So it is a certification program and issued by Institute of Product Leadership. Now, this is something that we'd like to emphasize. There are several programs like this, especially on product management. But one thing that everybody at the Institute, including the experts, faculty, mentors, coaches, emphasize is on rigor, right? And rigor and application of the skills that you learn in the context of real world projects, assignments, so that at the end of the day, two things should happen to every learner. One is you build an awesome portfolio of assets to demonstrate to either your prospective employers or to your stakeholders or your internal teams. And this, of course, portfolios, designers are not new to it, but this would include not just the design aspects of it now, right? So as we talked about the full stack, which includes the product design as well as the business design elements to it, right? So, and the second, thing that should really be the outcome for every learner is for them to be able to transition into these full stack design careers. There are a lot of companies that are looking for and trying to hire for a person who just not knows, let's say, visual design or interaction design or prototyping or even web front-end web development, but somebody who understands the end-to-end of the design process, design frameworks, design tools, and at the same time, the business design aspects as well. Now, so who is this program really for, right? So we know that there is a very large ecosystem within India and even outside India of graphics designers, visual designers. There are a lot of people who are in product management who are really looking to upskill themselves and have a working knowledge of design so that they make better product decisions, right? So it is really for any aspiring designer or graphics designer who knows how to build websites, web pages, visuals, all of this amazing stuff that you guys build, by the way. and product managers who are looking to have that meaningful conversations with the design team, right? So, I think I cannot emphasize this anymore and keep just saying that, products, whether it is digital products, consumer products, enterprise products, they are all today being differentiated in the market on the basis of experience, on the basis of design, right? So even product managers need to have absolute working skills. So essentially, for anyone who wants to become, equip themselves with working knowledge and hands-on skills on UX design, UI design, product, and business design. So that's who this program is geared for. So quickly on how this works, there are essentially 5 courses in the program. Right now, the nomenclature that we're using is the overall ICUX Flex is a program. Within that program, there are about 5 skills or 5 courses. And you see these 5 courses, right? We start with designer mindset, fundamentals and methods, which covers pretty much all the fundamentals that are required to get you started onto a deep dive into several other areas, right? And then the next course is user research. Here, of course, you spend a lot of time understanding various techniques, including ethnography, contextual inquiry, and all of those things, right? The third one is information architecture. And many people are familiar here about information architecture. How do you organize information, either on digital properties like websites or mobile apps or all of those things. And moving on to interaction design and prototyping, right? So this is where a lot of people who are skilled in this, are actually in good demand too, right? So wherein you need to quickly turn around a prototype, and most often people who are good at using certain tools can do this pretty quickly. But the customer context, the business context is equally important for all of them. So when we say full stack, each designer should really understand. I know a lot of designers already spend quite a bit of time in the customer context, right? Understanding your users, their behaviors, their aspirations, their goals, their workflows, and all of those things. But the business context and the market context is going to be quite important as well. So the 5th course here is, of course, visual design, right? So all the elements that go into concepts and tools and frameworks that go into visual design. Now, you might notice that the course number 1 and 5 are slightly color coded differently, right? So what we're bringing is essentially these 2 are what we call as auditable courses, right? And what that means is, again, based on what our understanding and research of the community is, that many folks already are experts and good at in some of these skills, right? Especially around visual design. So if you believe that you are already good in visual design, you don't need to go through, spend a month, work on assignments, work on capstone project and do that. And the question is, can I skip this one, right? The answer is absolutely, right? So you can skip. These are the 2 skippable courses, if you will. And instead, now you may want to look at what additional skills can I learn, right? So for example, we introduce this concept of bonus courses or electives, right? So you can pick any of these things as an elective. And some of these things, as you notice, are towards the business context, right? Business design perspective, especially around value proposition design, business models. And these are very critical, especially for digital and digital products that you're building on. Some of you may be in senior roles, leadership roles, managers already. Now you might be managing a team. And what does it take to manage a design team, right? So this is all about design leadership and managing designs, setting up processes and all of those things, right? So that's the design management. So this set of courses, and of course, these set of courses will evolve over a period of time based on what, we work very closely with industry and industry council. And 2 of our folks here on the call are practitioners of design for more than a couple of decades, right? So their inputs and the council inputs play a very critical role into this. And over a period of time, something that we believe that is going to help achieve those outcomes in the industry will bring them as electives or bonus courses. So a quick view into a learning path, right? So if you are, let's say, a visual graphics designer and you are looking at this course and you're looking and saying, I already know visual design. right? So why should I waste about a month of time, spending on some assignments and some capstone? I already have a amazing portfolio of, that I've built over a period of time. So in this context, you can actually skip that and then choose the value proposition design part of it. So if you are, let's say, a product manager, right now, product managers spend a lot of time in understanding what to build and what not to build, and taking some certain business decisions about prioritization, investment, and all of that. But day in and day out, they need to work with designer teams to make those experiences, to make sure that the product is being built in the right way, right? So similar approach that you take, you can skip, let's say, this auditable course, and then pick up more on the customer centricity part of it, design thinking aspects of it. But if you are, let's say, project or an engineering leader, you can focus more on design management and understand how products are built from a product perspective, product team perspective, right? What is a prioritization? How does it happen? Why is a roadmap the way that it is? And especially taking that back and applying that in the context of the designers that are building these products, right? So that's essentially a quick view of some of the learning paths, not all of them, but we'll create these learning paths and provide a way to choose or skip the specific courses that are there, right? Now, one thing is, the program is not a tools training, right? However, we recognize that designers work day in and day out with some amazing tools, right? Sketch or Figma or InVision for click-through prototypes or high fidelity prototypes. So the interesting part, an important part of this program is what we call as guided learning sessions, right? Now what this means is every week, and I'll get to that in a minute, there are 3 live virtual sessions that happens for every course, right? So you take information architecture. For information architecture, there are going to be 3 live guided sessions in a week, right? So week 1, lab session. Now, what is a lab session? It's basically a show and tell. The mentor, the skill mentor, who is an industry practitioner, joins that session, and the participants also join a remote session like this one. And then you go through a case study or an audit of an existing product or a mobile app or anything using certain tools, right? Using a prototyping tool or visual design tool or graphic design tool, and use that. That is a lab session. Now, second session is a clinic session where participants have lots of questions, right? So can you help me understand this a little more better? By the way, I've heard of this new concept, but that is not covered in the digital learning course. Can you help spend some time on that? And how does this apply in my context, right? I'm working on this particular project. How can I take advantage of these, the skills that are there? And more importantly, live presentations. So along the way, every participant gets to work or need to work, not gets to work, need to work on a set of assignments and a capstone project, right? And a capstone project is essentially a full-fledged project or product, of course, the design focus on it to help you build that portfolio. And once you do that, you've got to present it to a whole bunch of audience, right? Including the skill mentor or the faculty that is part of it. And then you get some feedback, either in terms of content, in terms of your skill, or in terms of presentation. How do you make a case? How do you tell a compelling story, right? So these are very important elements to it. So every course has these 3 guided learning sessions. And so since there are 5 courses, there are about 15 live guided sessions along the program. And these sessions, by the way, rotate, right? So in August month, first week, you have lab session, second week clinic, and third week live presentation for information architecture. Next month, September, it repeats. So if you missed something, because people can enroll at any time, participants can join anytime, and these are rotating sessions. So you can take, you don't miss anything, right? So that's how this is kind of structured, and what I just explained is what you see visually here, right? So every course, there are comprehensive assignments and capstone project. Now, there's another option in the capstone project. If you don't like a capstone project that is made available to you, or a set of projects that are there, you can come up with your own capstone project, work with the faculty and the mentor and say, look, this is what is going to help me do better and build a good portfolio. It is relevant to me. It is relevant to what I am working on right now. Absolutely. That flexibility is available. You just have to have the conversation and make sure the scope is defined and the outcomes and the artifacts are defined, and then start working on them, right? So that's how this thing. Now, a very important thing is not just skills, right? Having the skills is absolutely critical. Ability to apply those skills is even more critical. But the other thing, at a certain stage in our careers, we all know that career transitions don't just happen by applying in LinkedIn or by applying in all of those job portals, right? It's very important that a few things should happen. One is, how are you able to demonstrate that portfolio of skills that you're doing? And are there enough number of hiring managers that are actually evaluating you and shortlisting you based on the display of skills, and not necessarily based on some title that is there or not in your resume, right? So unfortunately, that's a challenge that you face in many hiring occasions, because the people who are scanning these resumes are looking for some titles, right? So IPL has a career management cell, a dedicated career management cell, where the team runs certain workshops in terms of preparing resumes, mock interviews, presentation techniques, and there is a very interesting platform called Career Club, right, where the IPL team works very actively and brings the hiring managers from the industry to IPL to hire from the IPL design talent that is going through this program. And that hiring event is purely based on how you're able to display your skills in the context of a real world challenge that they give you, and how you're able to convince them, present them, and then shortlisting and job offers happen, right? So this is a pretty interesting thing. It's a running thing. We've been running this, IPL has been running this for product and product roles for several years, very successful. And as part of all these things, you get to be part of 2000 plus IPL alumni, right? A lot of them in senior leadership roles, in hiring roles, in various companies and in products. So that's essentially what I wanted to cover. But before I hand off to Menaka, I wanted to announce one thing here, right? So today, special, we are announcing Norman Scholarship. And I don't have to tell all the designers out here who Mr. Norman is, Don Norman. In honor of him, we, IPL, are announcing a 25,000 rupee scholarship for the first 25 participants. And you need to take an assessment. So if you are interested in taking this, do send an email to the scholarship@ipl.edu.in that you see in front of you. You just send an email saying that I want to take that assessment, and the team will send you some details about where the assessment is and how you can take it. It's essentially, you can take it on the mobile phone. And once you do that, the team will basically look at your scores, and you will get a scholarship of 25,000 rupees off on the current program, right? So with that, I wanted to hand over to you, Menaka. Thank you. And happy to take any questions either now or at the end of it. But I think we should, I want to hear what Eve and Tatan has to say as well. So thanks.
Yes, great. Let's thank you, Sai. And Professor Eva, could you please come on video? So we adapt our curriculum to real-time changes in the industry. And Professor Eva, could you please share your views on the skills Sai just mentioned about? And please add your thoughts here.
Yeah, hi, just making sure everyone can hear me.
Yes.
Yeah, great. My name is Yi Chen. I am the Program and Course Director for UX at IPL. I'm also head of UX at Virtusa, EMEA. And previously I was Solution Design Director at Sky TV. And then before that, Creative Director at ThoughtWorks. I've been doing UX design for over 25 years, and that's quarter century, so that's pretty long. But what I'm really excited about with this course is that it's well, first of all, it's online. It's very collaborative, and it's very I would say that we spent a fair amount of time trying to put the course structure together, and we've all tried to make it as relevant and contemporary and as in terms of the teaching balance versus the actual what the students have to do in terms of the work. There's a really good balance between learning as well as the doing. So I think it's important for you guys to understand that. It's not just a course you can watch and then think you can learn it and then not really apply it. So I think that's one of the key differentiators between this course and maybe some other courses. It's probably worth mentioning because Sai and Pinkesh shared a really good overview of the course. What I would like to do is maybe dive a little bit deeper into each of the courses themselves. I guarantee there's going to be information overload because you're not going to be able to take it all in. However, you know, if there are questions and you have, there is a Q&A session after this, you can kind of park your questions because I think there's two ways we can do this. We can either go through it and then you ask questions, and I know there's going to be a lot of questions. So I'd much prefer it if you could maybe note down some of your questions. And if I don't manage to cover any of those as and when I'm speaking, you can perhaps bring those up either in the chat window or as we do the Q&A session at the end. So let's dive straight into it. So let's imagine if these courses didn't exist. I think the tragedy would be that, well, first of all, we all wouldn't be able to meet you guys and teach you and see how you progress as you're learning and you're developing, and as when you're submitting your work, we can't critique that. So that, I mean, that would be a lost opportunity, first off. But secondly, if this course didn't exist, then what would happen is this: you would get perhaps a transitionary designer moving from, let's say, UI design into UX design, or maybe into service design, or maybe into product management. They're going to move because of the halo effect. So they're going to be good at something, but then because of that, they think, oh, maybe you can evolve into this. So let's say moving from a UX designer into a product management role without really understanding what that means. I think that would not be a good thing. And of course, a lot of growth does happen on the job. We want to make sure that when we take you through this training, that you can learn on the job through the case studies that we walk through, and also through the teaching and the hands-on exercises and assignments that we'll be setting you. So we would prefer you to learn that way, where everyone that would be teaching and mentoring you would actually be in the industry to learn from us, learn from our past experience, so we can apply it as and when you're going through the course, so that when it comes time to actually saying, okay, I'm ready, I kind of have a really good understanding, practical understanding as well, of how to not only understand UX design, but also work through the different skills and disciplines. So anyway, enough waffling. I think what I'm going to do is just go through each course bit by bit, and I'll go through what's in each course, and then also kind of maybe highlight, if we don't do now, highlight at the end kind of what the workshops and some of the capstone projects and the way that they're structured, how, what are some of the exercises you could be doing, what are some of the assets you could be creating, what are some of the outputs, that sort of thing, okay? Okay, so let's start with the first one. So the first one is Designer Mindset Fundamentals and Methods. Now, the reason why we have this is because I've seen in the chat window already that there are some in the audience who are perhaps thinking about getting into UX design. So I think it would not do this course justice, or this whole program justice, if we didn't have a introductory overview of what UX design is. And it's a really good overview because it covers absolutely everything, from in terms of the depth skills that you would need, or certainly that you would like to understand throughout the whole of this fundamentals and methods course. So we start with the history, and we go through, what is the difference between usability and user experience. Then we talk about human-centered design, and then within that we talk about psychology, empathy, emotion. Then we talk about the hot topic, design thinking, which is actually much more than design thinking, it's design doing. But you need a process, and you need to be able to understand what the problem is. And like Einstein said, that with, if you had an hour, he'd spend the first 55 minutes thinking about what the problem is, and then the last 5 minutes just solving it. think it's important to start from the very beginning. Then we go into overviews of information architecture, to research, interaction design. We cover prototyping as part of, it very much is part of interaction design. And prototyping is a process, right? So the process can actually be part of design thinking, be part of interaction design, be even part of how you run your information architecture discovery sessions. But we've pulled that out into an actual separate area we would like to cover as an overview as part of this fundamentals course. Of course, we cover visual design, then we will be, again, high-level service design. We talk about growth design and growth marketing, because it's important to understand that, or certainly appreciate the value of understanding what conversion means and KPIs, and KCIs, and all the different metrics that businesses would be very interested in. Because once you start talking about metrics of businesses, they're going to very much more want to engage with UX design to understand how UX design or a UX design team can help improve that. Then we cover usability testing, some content strategy. We talk about kind of some of the lean UX, agile design sprint methodologies. And then throughout the whole of that course, we'll be covering different processes. So you're going to imagine, if you just did that course alone, you would have a very good overview of all the different aspects of UX design. Then, as Sai mentioned, we go through to the meatier courses. I may have them in the wrong order on my notes, but I mean, in terms of information architecture, user research. So from an information architecture perspective, when I first started talking to industry peers about information architecture, they were so happy that as a course we were going to be running it, because that typically ends up being skipped and distilled and made part of a different skill set. You don't really hear a lot of designers talking about information architecture anymore, which is a real shame, because if you imagine me as a human being, if you take away the way that my face is put together and my skeleton, I wouldn't be very much left of me in terms of to hold me up. So information architecture is very important. And what I mean by that is, in the course itself, we will be covering in depth the core information architecture models, the goals, the research methodologies, the importance of organizational structure. We will cover key skills like card sorting, high level in terms of content strategy, because there is a separate content strategy course, but this would be high level content strategy because it falls into information architecture. Data as well, so understanding data, making data-driven decisions, how that will affect how you lay out a website or an app or any digital design screen application, looking at systems labeling, navigation paths, search systems, information management, and then tracking those goals and as you progress through. So again, if I was going to pick one course that I would say that would surprise you and maybe you wouldn't have thought about taking, it would be information architecture. But I would say, like I said, if you take that away, I think a lot of the things that hold good design together would be lost. So it's an important part of UX design. Next one, user research. What we cover here is we will review the fundamentals. It's important to understand that even though you've taken the design and mindset fundamentals and methods course, it's always good to start with that. So let's say we covered user research in design and mindset fundamentals and methods. We'll use that as a sort of a teaser so that when you do the actual full-fledged course on user research, you will have a high understanding of what it is. But then we dive deep into methodologies, behavioral, attitudinal, qualitative, quantitative methodologies. We'll look at all sorts of different toolkits. We will, of course, look at things like personas, creating user journeys, and then understanding how user research and agile work together. to inform design solutions. So apart from that, in the user research course, we'll also be covering other methodologies like focus group testing, very much so on usability testing, the different types, lab, guerrilla, remote. We'll be taking you through different ways of conducting contextual inquiry, doing observational studies, looking at high level sort of newer experimentation type research like lean startup and creating minimum viable products, and then formative, summative ways of communicating design research. So it's pretty comprehensive, and of course, without user research, you won't know who your users are, what the problems are, how they do their current jobs, and how we can, as a UX designer, improve those. Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Sorry, Iwe, sorry to interrupt you. At this point, I just want to remind the participants that the program, a link to the program website is posted on the chat, and they can get detailed information on each of these things on the brochure from the website as well, right? So that's, I just wanted to let everybody know.
A lot to remember, and if you take the course, all the courses, you will actually be taken through all of these. Okay, I'm going to say it now. If I wish there was a program of work, a program of UX design. Had I started 5 years ago, it certainly would have given me a very good overview and also in-depth learning and training into how to make these skills practical. So let's go. Let's cover interaction design next and prototyping. So in that course, we'll be looking at the 5 different stages of the interaction design process: perceiving, predicting, getting feedback, learning, and remembering. We'll look at navigation again, but this time from an interaction design perspective, looking at systems and mental modeling. We're structuring the interactions out. We'll be doing
Professor Eva, I'm sorry to interrupt. We are running a little behind time. And I'm really sorry to interrupt. We have Tatan with us here. So Tatan, could you please?
No, I just before we go to Tatan, I think, whatever Eve was talking about, which went into a lot of details, all of that is available on the website and brochure. So folks, feel free to go ahead and download that and see that, right? Thank you so much, Eve. And I'm sure there are going to be a few questions that, I'd appreciate if you can take some of them. But before that, over to you, Tatan and Menaka.
Hey, hi folks. Good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever the time zones you are in. So I won't take much time because I think Pinkesh, Sai, and Iwe covered a lot of it. But quickly, and I won't. I think Menaka already introduced, so I won't waste much time in that. But what I wanted to say is, so I would reflect on what Pinkesh said at the start. When we started our career, you also, kind of mentioned about that. It was a lot of what we had to figure out. But then if somebody has a menu in front of you and you just need to pick and choose, I think that's awesome. So, so the thing is, when we started our career, some of us, like 2 decades back, it was mostly, kind of figuring out, okay, so normally we had this, okay, we'll learn the skill and we'll go deeper into that skill and more deeper and more deeper. Or maybe we'll pick up more design skills as we go forward, some of which you have already mentioned. But then as the career progressed, we kind of acquired the skills, right? But when we started moving into leadership, some of us, it's more like it appeared that, we took the journey the other way around, like, something which Sai and Pinkesh mentioned, maybe more of product management to start with and picking up more of UX understanding and skills, as they try to create their org. My journey has been the other way around, started doing UX and picking up more product management and business design skills on the way. So if you are also looking to move into a UX leadership as a career, like you have to have cross-functional skills, as Pinkesh mentioned, right? So it's not about only having design skills, but a way how to communicate that to the stakeholders, how to measure that, and kind of in terms of dollar value amount. Those things are very critical in terms of adoption, and there are other various forms of metrics that are there, right? So that is the era which we are in now. So the cross-functional skill is very important. So you might choose to be an individual contributor throughout your career and picking deeper skills, but you can go so much in terms of deeper skills, right? Maybe you start from 1, move to 5, 10, whatever, right? But then as you acquire more skills, more cross-functional skills, you grow up the ladder in terms of career, because the people whom you will be speaking with, the customers whom you will be interacting with, the business stakeholders, the board of the company or the C-level you will be working with, at the end of the day, we are not selling art. We are selling products, we are selling services, right? And that has a dollar value connotation to it. So if you don't understand, you just design and design and design, and it doesn't have any value attached to it, then it is not design as such, because it's just an art, right? And it may sell, it may not sell, or whatever it is. Like it gives fun, but design is also the business aspect of it. So as we grew up in our career, like moving from UX design to service design, which you had mentioned, and picking up skills around service design, because a lot of the companies not only have products, but they have associated service. So most of the e-commerce companies you look at, like there is a service, Swiggy, Amazon. Like if you just design a very good Amazon or Swiggy app and your service is not designed in a way, definitely the business is supposed to pay. So the 360 view of the design is very critical in that stage. And then as you go, at the end of the day, again, as I mentioned, it's numbers. So you have to have an idea of business design as well. So the journey of the designer, which was basically started 2-3 decades back as a more of a visual and UI aspect, as it has moved into the strategy and business. So at the top level, if it's as a chief design officer or a very senior person in design, there is very thin line between the product management, design and in that kind of profession, because as a designer you have learned a lot of this business and product management skills, and maybe if you're a product manager you have picked up a lot of these design skills, because one profession you might be very deep, but then if you don't understand in details all the other professions, you will not be able to do. And with a changing environment, you will always have to learn new skills, because the user ecosystem itself is changing. All right, so that new skills will help you go forward. The new skills like as I mentioned, service design, business design, but there is another side like conversational design, more technical skills, designing for AR, VR, and those kind of skills are also required. So it's you need a 360 degree, be a full stack, which Pinkesh just called full stack designer. Acquire those skills, go deeper, as well as also acquire breadth in terms of understanding the other professions, right? So not only business, but you also need to understand some bit of technology. Normally the challenges that we saw in designers in the last so many years, most of them get stuck in their career because they don't understand anything about technology. Because at the end of the day, or they don't understand anything about business. They're very, very good designers, but the way they are going to communicate is very, very, very difficult. Because at the end of the day, what will come out of your design? There are a bunch of service products which will be always supported by technology, because there is no manual thing at this point in time. A lot of things are even services are delivered through technology, right? But understanding of technology, understanding of business, and understanding of design of all forms, right, is very critical for a profession. So when I saw this course, just now, which I think it's a great course, and the optional subjects are also very great in the sense that they cover a bit of business design, a bit of service design, and that is something like we had to spend, do so many courses. Like some ended up doing masters in design, MBA, and then understand some other technology course, data science course, and those kind of things. Because if you are measuring things, again, a measurement is all about qualitative and quantitative. And if you're going in the quantitative way, it's all about numbers. So at the end of the day, you also ended up learning statistics to a certain extent, because you're working with sample and sample sizes. So to measure and to figure value out of your data. So it's again a cross-functional skill that Pinkesh mentioned. So with that, I won't take much of your time, and because there will be a lot of questions, maybe we'll look forward to questions. Over to you, Menka.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. I think we should have a longer session, and so that we can take all the questions that you guys have. I already see that there are many questions on the Q&A window, and we have tried to answer most of it. And Professor Shah, Professor Sai Satish, Professor EY, please feel free to take any question that you would like to go ahead with. And Tatan, you too, please.
Is there a way that you could pick
Sure.
some of the questions, that common ones?
Yeah. So let me go through the questions. So, okay, let's take this first. Monica here is asking, I'm new into the UX design world. How is business design different from product design?
I think I answered that for her on the while I was listening to Tatan and Eve. I kind of answered that online, but I think maybe we should ask Monica to go on live and maybe let her ask other related questions to it, because I think there's a few that she had.
Sure. So we have.
Unmute
please go ahead, sir.
No, I was saying, can we unmute her and let Monica ask the question if she wants to?
I could do a high level answer on that one. So I would say that it depends who's asking the question. So I think if you're a product manager and you're asking, is it a business design challenge, or if you are a CEO asking, is it a product design challenge? I would say that product, business, UX, they're all strategic now. So I think in terms of creating products and services that can differentiate based on achieving success in terms of achieving a KPI or some sort of other KCI type value metric. So UX design is becoming business design, which is product design. That's my diplomatic answer.
Great. Thank you. So I think here Anup Krishnan has one question. Sai or Eva, if you could take this. So Anup would like to know if he can just enroll, module wise, or does he have to follow a scheme or a pattern?
Yeah, well, this is a program, right? So I think when we talk about a full stack designer, it makes sense that a person follows the path, a recommended path, a proven path, and based on inputs given from industry council, this program is put together with a recommended set of courses and a path to follow, right? So now we recognize the need that some of you may not want to do certain course because you're already good at it, and hence a couple of auditable courses. But the short answer is this is a program, not just one course, right? So which means the enrollment will happen on the overall program and not to individual courses.
Great. Thank you, Sai. Would you like to add anything, Professor Eva?
No. Good.
Okay, great. I think we need to go for a wrap now. And thank you, everyone, for your time spent with us here. Tatan, Professor Eva, Professor Shah, and Professor Sai Satish. So I understand that you will have a lot more questions on this subject. So please take this opportunity to scan the QR code and ask us or get a 30 minutes one-on-one session. And we will be, so design career is not something that you can get all the answers for in an hour's time. We totally understand that. We will come to you with more such sessions, and we are always open to answer any of your questions. So reach out to us on this QR code, or please write to us at engage@ipl.edu.in. So please go ahead and write us emails, or feel free to check out our webpage. There are multiple ways of reaching to us at any point in time and asking any question that you want. And with that, let's go for a close now.
So
And
just,
thank you, everyone. Please do, Sai.
just a quick word. I think you know, the website has a lot more information, including the cost of the program, the financing options, the brochure, and all of that. And by the way, don't forget that scholarship, which we just launched. Send an email to scholarship@ipl.edu.in, and the team will get back to you on how to take that assessment and do that. Right. Thank you all, folks, and appreciate you all joining. Thank you, Ive and Tatan. Stay safe and take care.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, thanks, Pinkesh. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.